Hello everyone out there and welcome back to my channel. Today the title of my message is Showing Mercy. And so today I'm going to talk about mercy and what the word mercy means. And the word mercy means to give a person what they don't deserve. That means they have not earned it. And it also means to show compassion. And another word for mercy is forgiveness. It means to forgive. See, because in doing this, you are able to show another person the love of God, which He has shown toward us. Because we do not deserve God's mercy at all. And many of us we have done all kind of things. But God still continues to love us. So He expects us to do this to our fellow man. And He also tells us in His word to love your neighbor as yourself. To look at your neighbor and love them as if it was you. And see, that's not always an easy thing to do. And it tells us in His word, this scripture can be found in Matthew, the 22nd chapter and the 39th verse. And it also can be found in Mark, the 12th chapter and the 31st verse. And see, this is not always an easy thing to do. To love your neighbor as yourself. You know, especially when your neighbor is not really a nice person to be around. And if your neighbor have done something that's very low down to you, it's not always easy. But God did not tell us that it would be easy. He still expects us to obey what He is saying. And He doesn't give us a choice. He does not give us a choice. Because see, when we do what God says, it's always a reward in our obedience. God does not tell us to do things for no reason. He does it so that it can help us. Because when we do what He say, it helps us. It helps us to stay on the right track. And I know this to be true in my own life. You know, because I have experienced deep betrayal by the person that was closest to me. And I also have learned to forgive. And God just wanted me to talk about this today. I am so far past this, but when I was married, this betrayal came when I least expected. You know, my ex was carrying around a secret that I didn't know about. And so it was at a time when we were going to refinance our house. And so during this process, you know, when you come to the end of, you go through the process and then at the end you have to sign a bunch of papers. So at the end of this process, when they began to, you know, give us papers to sign, one of the papers was a judgment against my ex that said that it had 2 children's name on it. It was a judgment against him. And I just remember at that time, I didn't think nothing of it. They asked him, if this is not you to sign this paper. And I just remember he signed the paper. He didn't say nothing at the time, but it was about a month later. This had to be God. A month later, it just came to my mind. And I remember I had been talking to my cousin that day. We was talking and I just thought about it and I was like, you know what? He didn't say not a word when that man asked him, was this him? He didn't say that, why my name on this paper? Just didn't question it. It just was something that was not right about that. And so it's like once I started thinking about it, it would not leave. It just stayed there to the point where I began to say it better not be true. It better not be true because I had no clue that this was going on. And so it had to be about a month later. I think I just began to pray about the situation. And I was telling the Lord, if it's something that I need to know, let it come out. And so I remember this letter came in the mail. And the letter was from somewhere. It just was, I just was wondering why this letter was coming to the house. And I remember him telling me, don't worry about it. And so he took the letter. And so when I prayed about this matter, wanting to know what was going on because I knew something went right, I went right to the dresser in my bedroom and opened a letter, and the letter was from child support. And the letter said that if he did not come to court, that he was going to be locked up. And so this was like the second form of evidence. So I knew at this point that my marriage was over. And so, can you imagine? I had been with this man since I was 18 years old. So all of my life, and just to find out that you really didn't know the person, I knew I could no longer be in that marriage. And just all the things that I had to go through that was connected to that, but I knew that I could no longer be with him. And I didn't forgive him right away. It took a while for me to forgive him, because basically my whole life was at this point was going to be different. But I'm telling you, God can help you forgive anything. Some people, they've been betrayed by their family members, and sometimes your friends, the people that you call a friend, be the main ones that will hurt you. But God, He wanted me to tell that story for some reason. It's a lot more to that story than that, but I'm just a little bit of some of the things that I have been through. But God has let me get over that thing because I had to forgive him. I had to show him mercy. And by me showing him mercy, I'm telling you, when you let go, it will prevent you from being bitter and angry. Bitter and angry, and it also will give God space to heal you. And these things is not always easy. See, what you have to do sometimes when a person has hurt you very deeply, you have to pray for them. Because see, when you pray for them, it changes you in some kind of way. When you pray for that person, it takes all that, because when you angry, you be heavy in the inside. And see, once you forgive that person, it's almost like you forget. A lot of people say, I'll forgive them, but I'll never forget what they done. But it's kind of almost like you do forget, because you don't feel it, and you don't feel it inside of you anymore. You don't think about them. You don't have any negative thoughts about them. Even when you see them, there's nothing there. And that's basically like it is for me. It's nothing there. It's almost like I was never with him. Even though I spent half of my life with this person, it's almost like I was never with him. And I'm able to look at him, and I truly do forgive him. And see, that's the only way you will be able to move on. See, I was able to move on. And see, when you angry with a person and you continue to be angry, because a lot of people, they be angry with people even years later. They be angry with them, and you can tell, because when you talk to them and they begin to talk about that person, you can see the angry, you can hear the angry, that they're angry with this person in their voice. And so over a long period of time, that bitterness, it becomes a root of bitterness inside of you. And a lot of times people don't even know they bitter, but it tends to take over you as a person. Because have you ever been around a bitter person? A lot of times a bitter person is not a fun person to be around, because a lot of times they become negative just about anything, just negative about a lot of things. And like I said, they not fun to be around, because see, when you have that built up anger inside of you, you tend to hurt the wrong people. Like they say, hurt people hurt people. So you tend to, that anger comes out at the wrong person, and that's because you have become one with whoever you are angry with, or that person you have not given mercy to or forgiven. You end up becoming one with them. You basically are carrying around a person with you that's not physically there. So that's just pretty bad. So we have to do what God says. Show mercy. He wants us to show mercy. And sometimes God has to help you. God has to help us, but you have to be willing to receive that help from God so that you can move on with your life. You don't want to be that person. You don't want to be that person, because all of us know somebody that's like that. And so I want to read in Matthew, the 18th chapter, the 23rd through the 25th to the 35th verse, because it talks about the unforgiving servant. And I read out of the King James Version for anyone that's following along with me. And it says, "Therefore is the kingdom of heaven likened unto a certain king, which would take account of his servants. And when he had begun to be reckoned, one was brought unto him which owed him 10,000 talents. But for as much as he had not to pay, his Lord commanded him to be sold, and his wife and his children, and all that he had, and a payment to be made. The servant therefore fell down and worshipped him, saying, Lord, have patience with me, and I will pay thee all. Then the Lord of that servant was moved with compassion, and loosed him, and forgave him the debt. But the same servant went out and found one of his fellow servants, which owed him 100 pence. And he laid hands on him, and took him by the throat, saying, Pay me that thou owest. And his fellow servant fell down at his feet, and besought him, saying, Have patience with me, and I will pay thee all. And he would not, but went and cast him into prison, till he should pay the debt. So when his fellow servants saw what was done, they were very sorry, and came and told unto their Lord all that was done. Then his Lord, after that he had called him, said unto him, O thou wicked servant, I forgave thee all that debt, because thou desirest me. Shouldest not thou also have had compassion on thy fellow servant, even as I had pity on thee? And the Lord was wroth, and delivered him to the tormentors, till he should pay all that was due unto him. So likewise shall my heavenly Father do also unto you, if ye from your hearts forgive not every one his brother their trespasses." So God is basically saying he has forgiven us our trespasses, and he expects us to do the same. And so we are to show mercy today. Because when we show mercy to a person, we become a reflection of God. Amen. Bye-bye for now. Have a blessed and prosperous day.